Welcome to the biggest ever free full-length course on how to build your influencer marketing agency. Influencer marketing is one of the fastest growing industries in the world. This model has existed for years. Brands use it, agencies run on it, and most people still don't understand how it works. In this training, I walk you through how it actually works step by step. But I have to warn you, if you're watching this casually while scrolling TikTok, this video will do nothing for you. But if you treat this like a training, it will completely change how you see online business. My name is Noah. I run Aonis Group, my influencer marketing agency for 3 years now. I work as a middleman between brands and creators. After trying multiple trendy businesses, SMMA, dropshipping, crypto, and so on, I decided to start something differently, Middleman Business. I started this as a student from a small country in southern Eastern Europe. Without knowledge, without mentors, and over the years I worked with some of the biggest brands you know today, managed 6 figures budgets monthly, and met some pretty cool influencers in real life, and built an agency operating at 7 figures per year. And in this course, I'm going to show you exactly how to do it yourself. By the end of this video, you'll understand how this business actually works behind the scenes. You'll know how to choose one niche and how to turn it into structured offer. How to set up foundations before you ever send a single email. How brands are found, how influencers are found, and how those two worlds get connected together. You'll understand what brands actually care about when they say yes, how calls with them look, and how influencers get pitched without sounding amateur. I'll walk you through how campaigns are run once money is on the table, how contracts fit into all of this, and what actually changes when you start scaling. And I'll show you real examples from my own work so you can see how this actually looks in practice, not just in theory. If any of these don't interest you, you can skip ahead. But I want you to stick with me through the whole blueprint because this took me from normal Noah to Noah you see today. We're going to cover exactly how it works and exact step-by-step on how to start it in 2026. And it didn't just work for me. I've also mentored people like Ash, who closed over $7,000 in profit in less than 40 days. Or Fahad, who got to $8,000 in revenue in 60 days as a student. Or Luca, Abdullahi, Hamza, and many more who are consistently closing deals and are changing their lives with this business model. But not overnight, not with hype, but by understanding how the world actually runs. This course, this is the roadmap I wish I had when I was starting out. So lock in, eliminate distractions, and let's get right into it. When people hear influencer marketing, they imagine something very simple. Find an influencer, find a brand, connect them, and take a cut. On the surface, that sounds right, but in practice, it's much more deeper. So let me show you what this model actually is. At its core, influencer marketing is a middleman business. It is a simple business. And middleman businesses have existed for as long as money has moved from one side to another. Real estate agents, modeling agencies, booking platforms like Airbnb, booking, sports agents, none of them owns the product. None of them creates attention. They control the transaction. And in this case, we're applying this model to one of the fastest growing industries in the world, the creator economy. On one side, you have brands. They have money and they want attention. On the other side, you have influencers. They have attention and they want to monetize it. The agency sits in the middle and solves two problems at once. Brands don't know how to work with creators at scale. Creators don't know how to price themselves, negotiate, or structure deals properly. That's why this model is so powerful. You're not pushing a service. You're fixing a broken connection and creating value on both sides of the bridge. The creator on one side focuses on the content. The brand pays for the exposure, and the agency manages everything in between: sourcing, coordination, timelines, contracts, and finally delivery. For example, you can find an influencer that charges $8,000 for a YouTube video. You find a brand willing to pay that price and take a percentage from both sides. Brand pays, you manage everything and profit everything that is in the middle. Another simple example is a brand has $30,000 budget for influencer marketing. They don't want to talk to 15 creators. They don't want to negotiate 15 contracts. They don't want to chase deadlines, drafts, or analytics. They want one partner who takes responsibility for all of that. That's where you can come in. You source the creators, you structure the campaign, you manage the timelines, you handle approvals, you invoice the brand finally, you pay the creators, and you take percentage for managing the entire operations. Typically, that's anywhere from 15 to 30%, sometimes more when the value is clear. This is how I made multiple 5-figure profits from some campaigns that didn't even require that much work from my side. And later in this video, I'll show you what it actually looks when a brand wires you $70,000 in one payment and how that money flows through the campaign with real examples from my best work. Before we go any deeper, I want to quickly put this into a context because a lot of people come into this space with wrong reference points. Most beginners look at models like SMMA, AI agencies, or dropshipping. With SMMA, you're selling a service that's already saturated. You need proof, results, and skills, and clients expect fast ROI. One bad month and you're out. With AI agencies, you're selling tools you don't control, the offer is unclear, easy to copy, and most clients don't even understand what they're paying for. Retention is weak, and it really doesn't make sense. With dropshipping, you're dealing with products, logistics, platforms, payment processors, and hundreds of things you can control. This model is different. You don't need money, you don't need a product, you don't need to build a service from scratch. You're stepping in between two sides that already exist and already want something from each other. Brands already want attention, influencers already have it and don't know how to monetize it. You're not inventing demand, you're organizing it. That's why this is one of the best models even for a beginner. You're fixing a real, expensive problem that already exists. And you are doing it by managing communication, trust, and execution. Then people ask me, then why is almost no one talking about this properly? The answer is simple. Influencer marketing isn't a trend. It never was. Brands were paying people for attention long before TikTok or Instagram existed. What changed isn't the model, it's where attention lives. And right now, attention lives with people. And just so we are clear, this model isn't a rich quick model. It's not passive income. If you're looking for shortcuts, this will probably disappoint you and you will need to go back on the homepage to find the buy gurus talking about mindset and all the other stuff. But that's a good thing. Because what I'm going to show you is how this actually works when the real money, real brands, and real reputations are involved. I'm going to show you what they gatekeep. With that clear, let's move on. Because now comes the part most people think they understand, but almost never do. Before you send a single email, before you look for brands or influencers, there's one decision that will either make this business clean and scalable or chaotic and frustrating. That decision is your niche. And this is where most beginners mess everything up. A niche is an industry where brands already spend money to acquire customers. Beauty, gaming, fitness, SaaS, e-commerce, education, hospitality, these are all niches. A sub-niche, on the other end, is how you narrow that industry down so your outreach, your pitch, and your campaigns stop being generic. For example, fitness is a niche. German supplement brands is a sub-niche. Beauty is a niche. Skincare brands launching on TikTok in UK is a sub-niche. The more specific your sub-niche is, the easier everything becomes. Outreach becomes clearer, brands trust you faster, pricing makes sense, campaigns are repeatable, you know what you're looking for, you have your ICP. The goal isn't to be small forever. The goal is to be specific enough to build momentum. You start narrow so you can learn the market, build relationships, and create track record. Once you have all of that, expanding to other sub-niches or even industries is very, very easy. Starting broad and trying to figure it out later is what keeps most people stuck. In influencer marketing, a good niche has two sides that both work. On one side, brands with predictable budgets. On the other side, creators who are easy to activate for campaigns and there's enough of them. If one side of these are missing, the niche doesn't work at all. I see a lot of the beginners say, I'll just work with everyone. That sounds flexible, but it's actually the worst position you can take. If you work with everyone, you have no reference point. You can't build your network, you can't pitch confidently, you can't repeat campaigns, you can't get case studies, you can't leverage your connections. Every new brand you work with feels like a new problem. And that's how agencies fail before they ever scale. A tight niche does the complete opposite. It makes your outreach easier and clearer. It makes brand trust you faster and it makes campaigns repeatable over the time because you have one clear offer and one clear framework you are following for every single brand. You're not convincing everyone, you're just selecting. When I look at niche, I don't ask if it's trendy, I run it through 4 filters. First filter is the niche monetizable? Are the brands in this space already paying influencers, not just testing, actually paying? Second filter is creator friendly. Are there enough creators producing consistent content in this niche without massive managers or unreachable talent? Third is campaign repeatable, thing that I already mentioned. Can brands run campaigns more than once? monthly launches, ongoing promotions, seasonal pushes. One-off niches don't scale ever. Fourth is attention friendly. Does influencer content actually make sense here? Does the audience discover products through creators naturally, or does it feel forced? If a niche passes all four, it works. I'm not going to give you a list of best niches for 2026. Anyone doing that is farming clicks. What matters isn't the niche name, it's whether it passes these filters that we just went through. And here's the important part. You don't need a perfect niche, you need a clear one. You can always expand later, you can always pivot later, but you cannot build a structure on top of randomness. Now that you understand how to choose a niche properly, the next question becomes obvious. What exactly are you offering inside that niche? Because influencer marketing isn't one service, it's a set of different models and services and offers. And choosing the wrong one at the start creates friction you don't need later. So next, let's talk about services selection and how to pick an entry point that actually gets you paid. Before you send a single email or talk to any brand, you need to understand one thing. Influence marketing agencies are not deal brokers. Connecting a brand to a creator and taking a cut is the smallest part of this business. Most beginners think influencer marketing is simple. They find a creator, find a brand and connect them. That's not an agency. That's brokering deals. In reality, industry is way deeper than that. Inside of my mentorship, we go through more than 10 different services you can build around influencer marketing. Different entry points, different margins, and different levels of complexity. But in this free course, we are not doing that. We're keeping things very simple and focused so you don't get overwhelmed or stuck. If you actually want to go more in depth, you can always check out the link in the description. If you're starting from zero, these are the 4 core services you need to understand before you move on to the rest. First one is one-time collaboration. This is the easiest and fastest way to get started in influencer marketing. This is actually your door opener. You act as a middleman between a brand and creator. The brand comes to you with a clear requirement. For example, we want a tech-focused creator with 100k average views on YouTube who posts long-form content consistently. Your job is very simple. You find the right creator to match their requirements, or multiple creators, align both sides, coordinate the deal, and manage the process. For that, you take a fee. The model works extremely well in the beginning for a few reasons. First one is there are no long-term contracts. Most communication happens over email or DM. You don't need to hop on calls or anything like that. Second thing is you don't need case studies. Cash flow is fast. If you're efficient, you can close deals within a few days. It also sets you up perfectly to upsell into higher and bigger services later. Best example for the one-time collaborations is if a brand is paying an influencer $5,000 for a single piece of content, you can charge a 20 to 30% fee. In many cases, you can take percentage from both sides for managing the deal. That's $1,000 to $1,500 in profit from one collaboration and one influencer, simply for structuring and coordinating the partnership. And we are talking, as I said, only about one influencer. Imagine what happens if a brand chooses 4 or 5 influencers as a first test. You can easily hit 10k profit from a first brand. This is why most people should start here, because it's simple, fast, and gives you experience very quickly and opens your door to other services that you can go into, which is also the thing we are going to talk about later. Second is talent management. Talent management completely flips the model. Here, creator is your client, you represent them, you handle brand negotiations, contracts, payments, scheduling, everything. Your role is to protect their time, pricing, and term positioning. Instead of chasing brands for every single deal, you build leverage by managing creators directly. Creators usually pay either a flat monthly fee or a percentage of every deal you close for them. This is typically anywhere between 15 and 25% per deal. At the end, about the whole month. The upside is obvious. You can earn even when the brand comes directly to the creator. You also build long-term relationships instead of one-off transactions. The downside is that you need to work with unmanaged creators, which often means smaller or growing influencers. There's also more communication, more back and forth, and more responsibility than managing the campaign. For example, if a creator closes $2,000 brand deal and you take 20%, that's $400. If that happens 5 times per month, the creator makes $10,000 and you make $2,000. Now imagine managing 7 or even more creators than that, each doing 3 collaborations per month. month, it adds up very quickly into consistent 5-figure income. And the best part, talent management contracts are usually between 3 to 6 months and up to 1 year, so it means consistent income. Making 5 figures from your 7 creators, you hire someone to do all the work for you, and now you have basically passive income. You can focus on all the other services. Third service is influencer seeding. This is one of the most underrated services in influencer marketing. Here, brands pay you to distribute products to creators. Creators receive free products in exchange for organic content or UGC. There are no paid creator fees. You're not negotiating prices, you're managing scale and coordination. This model works extremely well for brands with smaller budgets or for product launches. You can charge a flat campaign fees anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000, sometimes even $10,000 per project, depending on the volume. Some agencies also run this on monthly retainers, so they get the same amount every single month. Your role is to find and vet micro and nano influencers, coordinate product delivery, track content, and report results. For example, a food and beverage brand might want to see 15 influencers. You charge $2,500 flat fee to manage the entire campaign. Micro and nano creators are easy to find and easy to work with. You find 15 creators, make sure everyone gets their package, track who posts and who doesn't, and that's it. You have very big case study for not much work. You also get 15 creators connections pretty fast. This is a great starter model if you're organized and good with structure and want to get connections pretty fast. Fourth and most advanced high-ticket service is full campaign management. This is where an influencer marketing agency actually becomes an agency. You don't just connect people or source creators, you manage everything from strategy, creator sourcing, negotiations, timelines, deliverables, analytics, and finally reporting. The brand hands you the budget and expects execution hands-free of them. This is where the real money is made. Brands typically pay between 15 and 30% of the total campaign budget or fixed fee that reflects scope of work that you're doing. For example, if a brand has $40,000 budget for influencer marketing and you charge 25%, that's $10,000 profit from a single campaign. And that can easily be one client for 1 month. At this level, you are expected to report results, manage creators closely, take care of all the relationships and make sure everything runs on time. But once you have closed a few smaller deals, brands often start asking you to take full control anyway. Over time, this can scale significantly. Managing $150,000 to $200,000 campaign and earning $40,000 or more for execution is very realistic once your systems and reputations are solid. So finally, we get to a question, which one should you start with? If you're just starting out, start with one-time collaborations or seeding. They're fast, simple, don't require brand history, and give you case studies you can later use to set to bigger offers. From there, you can move into talent management if you enjoy working closely with creators, or full campaign management if you want larger retainers. Or even do both things together. The whole point is simple. Start lean, learn fast, build experience, then raise your prices and add more offers. Now, beyond the service itself, you need to be very clear on who you are actually serving. This is where the most people get it wrong. Everyone obsesses over email copy, subject lines, scripts, but almost nobody stops to think about who is on the other side of the table. And that's why their outreach feels random and their calls go nowhere. Your ICP matters more than your pitch. A small brand doesn't think the same way as a funded brand does. Bootstrapped DTC brand is thinking about cash flow and survival. A venture-backed company is thinking about timelines, reporting, and how much the risk they're willing to take. I've seen this the exact same service land easily with one type of brand and get completely rejected by another. Not because the service was bad, but because it was wrong for that ICP. That's why two agencies can offer the same thing and get very different results. It's rarely the offer, it's who the offer is for. Region also plays a much bigger role than people realize, and almost nobody talks about this honestly. Budgets are different by region. The decision-making speed is different. Expectations are different. Even how people communicate and what they actually care changes. Running an influencer marketing campaign in Balkans, where I actually started, is not the same as running campaigns in Western Europe. And it's not the same as running campaigns in US. The services look similar on paper, but the focus is completely different. What the brand values, what they question, and what they're willing to pay varies a lot. You don't need to be global from day one. In fact, trying to be global too early usually creates more confusion than the actual opportunity. What you actually need is understanding the service you're offering, understanding the type of brand or creator you want to work with, and understanding the region where you can realistically execute well. Before you move on to outreach, emails, or calls, you should be able to answer all of these three questions without overthinking them. What service am I offering? Who am I offering it to? And which region am I choosing? If those aren't clear, outreach turns into guessing. Calls become awkward and deals fall apart for reasons you can't really explain. Once those three things are locked in, everything else gets easier. Your messaging becomes sharper, your outreach feels more intentional, and brands start taking you seriously. Pause this video for 30 seconds and write this down. Your niche, your service, and your region. If you can't answer those, outreach and everything else that we will cover will feel completely random. Now, with that foundation in place, we can move on to the next step, setting up your email and outreach properly. Before we talk about outreach scripts or calls, we need to get the foundation right, because this is one of the most common places where beginners fail before they even start. Not because they're bad at sales, not because the model doesn't work, but because their outreach never reaches anyone. By the way, later in this video, I'll give you the exact outreach structure that got my mentorship students their first replies, even without case studies or previous experience. Let's start this pretty simple. If you're running an influencer marketing agency or any type of agency, you need a proper domain and proper business email. Not a Gmail, not a Yahoo, not Outlook, not anything that looks personal. A clear domain, something simple, something professional, and business email tied to that domain. Either a general address like hello or info, or personal one like your name at your domain. That's enough. You don't need anything fancy here. This isn't about looking big, it's about looking legitimate. Brands are used to working with agencies, vendors, partners. If your email looks unprofessional, you're already creating friction before conversation even starts. You can set this all up on Hostinger or Google Workspace. I don't want to actually go through all of that because this is very, very simple. You can buy your domain, buy your email, connect them to Google or Outlook, and that's it. You will have one professional email with your name or info or hello or anything like that with your domain, and this is what you will use for outreach. I don't want to waste time on that. I really want to give you as much value as possible, so we will skip the actual part where we set it up on Hostinger or Google Workspace because there's a lot of tutorials on how to do that. Next thing is the very, very critical part almost nobody talks about and takes really seriously, which is called email warm-up. Your outreach can be perfect, your messaging can be on point, your offer can make perfect sense, but if your email isn't warmed, no one will ever see it. One of the biggest mistakes I see is people start their outreach, think everything is going good, and then realize that they have been sending emails for 3 weeks or even more sometimes, and all of them landed up in spam, or in other words, brands never saw your email. That's why email warm-up exists, and that's why email warm-up is very, very important. When you create a new email domain and start sending emails, email providers don't trust you yet. You have no sending history, no reputation, no signal that you're a real business. If you start blasting emails on day one, two things can happen. Best case is that your emails go straight to spam. Now you're probably asking what is the worst case if this is the best case. Worst case is that your domain gets flagged and you burn it before you even start it. You just bought it and it gets burned. It gets flagged by Google and you can't even use it anymore. Warm-up is simply the process of building trust with email providers where you start slow, you send small volumes of emails, and you gradually increase over the time. Not days of mass sending from 0 to sending 50 emails per day, not hundreds of emails out of nowhere. A realistic warm-up timeline takes around 14 days, and that's what you need to do. It's not crazy, it's not 1 month or anything like that, it's just 14 days, which you need to do. During that time, you're not trying to scale, you're letting the system know that you're a real sender, that you're a real agency, a real person who's trying to do cold outreach. The biggest mistake people make and beginners make, they try to rush this part, they buy domain today, set up an email, and start sending 50 to 100 emails in the same day. That almost always ends badly. Think of warm-up like this. You're not trying to be aggressive, you're trying to look normal, like a real business starting conversation. Again, same thing, I don't want to go too deep with email warm-up. There's multiple tools that you can take to make your warm-up in this 14 days, 2 weeks, sometimes even 10 days is enough, sometimes more than 14 days is good. But the general thing is you need to understand that the warm-up needs to be done. You need to start sending from 0 to 2 emails per day, then 3 emails per day, 5 emails per day and gradually increase to the number of 30, 40 emails per day per inbox, so you can actually start sending out this many emails at the same time. As I said, I don't want to go too deep into the warm-up. There's multiple tools like Instantly, I think Smartly, also a lot of tools which you can take and look, and there's a lot of tutorials on how to set up your warm-up. It takes 10 minutes maximum if your email is bought and set up correctly, and it's more than enough for you to start. So before you go on to the next steps, if you don't have an email, after watching this course, after watching to the whole thing, go and buy the email domain and add them to Google Workspace, Outlook, or anything, and add them to Instantly or any kind of tool that will help you for warm-up. As I said, I'm not going to go too deep into tools or software here, and this is also where I see a lot of people waste their time on wrong things. They start thinking about business cards, logos, website, landing pages. None of this matters at this stage. You don't need a website, you don't need perfect online presence. A warmed up business email is enough, and that's what brands will reply to. That's what conversations will start from. Everything else can come later. Right now, the goal isn't to look like a big company. Your goal is to be reachable and trusted. If your email lands in the inbox and your message makes sense, that's all you need to get started. Professional email, domain, clean business email, proper warm-up before outreach, and that's it. Now that we have foundation set, we can move on to the things that actually matters next. We need to get leads, get brands and influencers who we are going to send the emails to. Section number 6, how to find and outreach to brands. Before you send a single email, you need to understand one simple rule. You do not start by convincing brands that influencer marketing works. You start with brands that are already spending money on influencers. That's the difference between fighting uphill and playing the game on easy mode. The manual way is the easiest and most underrated way to find brands in front of you right now. Go to YouTube, TikTok, or Instagram, find creators in your niche, open their content, check who is already sponsoring them. If a brand has sponsored creator once, they are likely to do it again. If you've sponsored multiple creators, they already have budget, approval process, and internal buy-in. You're not selling influencer marketing, you're selling better execution, better creators, or better structure. That's much easier conversation. How this looks in practice: you're going on YouTube, you're searching a creator. For example, I searched a travel and entertainment creator like this. Some of you maybe even know him. I'm gonna go on his profile, I'm gonna go to his videos. What I do, I will go onto the latest because just want to see what brands are actually sponsoring right now at this moment. I will go to the latest video and see if there is anything here. For example, here you can see that there is a sponsored link, which means that this video is sponsored by some brand. Even if we go and try to look out for a sponsored segment, we'll most likely find it somewhere in the video. Potentially in first half of the video we will be able to find it. To not waste time on it, I'm not gonna find it exactly, but I can almost guarantee you that it's somewhere, as you can see right here where you saw the discount code or something like that, QR code. This is almost guaranteed that this is from the brand that sponsored this guy. Do not get copyright or anything like that. I might even have to blur this, but if we click on this link, it's gonna redirect us to the brand page. From there, I will go onto their page, go to their Instagram, LinkedIn, and all the other stuff that we are going to cover later on. But this is how to find brands. Even if we go on the other videos, we can potentially see on this one we don't have any brand sponsoring it. But I can almost guarantee you that every third or fourth video, as you can see, even here, we see it on the first few seconds or something like that. We saw the brand sponsoring this content. So I can, as I said, guarantee you that you will find a lot of brands that are already sponsoring influencers this way, and this is one of the fastest ways to actually find them. This method does two things at once. It gives you qualified brands, it tells you what kind of creators and content those brands actually like. This is why it works so well when you're starting out. You're not guessing, you're observing what's already happening and inserting yourself into it. Once you understand who you're targeting, you can spin things up Tools like Apollo or any other lead generation tool like that helps you build brand list at scale. In Apollo, you can filter by industry, company size, location, job titles like influencer manager, partnerships, or marketing lead, and this will speed up your process really fast. How Apollo looks once you open it, it's going to be a page like this. When you go on prospect, you're going to click on companies, and here you're able to search all kinds of companies. You can search by their account location. You can search, as we mentioned, by your region that you have chosen by now already. Employee count, you can click on 11 to 20, 51 to 100. I recommend you to stay under 100, but you can also go over. And industry and keywords, which is a final thing that we are including to get all kinds of brands. In this case, we can search pretty simple term like this, apparel and fashion, and then include keywords like men's fashion and a lot of other stuff, which can help us go to that sub niche that we chose. When we have a brand like this, we can go click here on their website. This one has a mistake, but let's click on potentially this one. And we can see that it actually is a fashion and apparel brand. They potentially work with influencers. When I see the website, I am almost 100% sure these guys work with influencers. We can go on their Instagram, check their tagged content. We can check their reels and be pretty sure that they already work with influencers. What I'm also going to do is click on their LinkedIn, and with Apollo extension that I have downloaded, I'm going to go on people, and when I find people who are, for example, in when I search here in marketing or influencer marketing or anything like that, I will be able to find, for example, marketing professional or vice president, brand marketing, or any person that I want to outreach to. For example, senior brand marketing manager. This can be the good person to outreach to. I'm going to get their email with Apollo. Most of the times you will see that email is available. In this case, it's not available. Maybe the person hid it or something like that, but you can most of the times get the email directly through Apollo extension like this. You click on the person's profile and you can click here, access email for 1 credit, and you can get the email of the person and outreach to them when you put them in your brand outreach sheet, which is the thing that we are covering next. As I said, brand tracking sheet. If you don't organize your leads, you'll burn through contacts and forget who you emailed, which is the reason why I recommend making a simple Google Sheet or using Notion, where you can have a brand, website, niche, Instagram, contact name, email, when they reply, and so on and so on. Every day your goal should be to add at least 10 to 30 new brands to this list, track replies, follow up, and stay consistent, because this is what makes people land deals. This isn't magic, it's just efficiency. But here's the important part. Automation only works after you understand what a good brand looks like. Start manual first, get your ICP, understand what works, what doesn't, then automate. Outreach template is the next thing we are covering. At this stage, you don't need clever copy, you need clarity. Your first message should do 3 things. First one is show relevance. Second one is show intent. And third one is make the next step easy. A simple structure looks like this. You reference something real. You explain what you do in 1 sentence, and finally, you ask for permission to continue the conversation. No pitching, no long explanations. This is not a sales email, this is a door opener. The goal is to get a reply and move the conversation forward. Most beginners fail here because they try to sound impressive without even understanding what they are doing. Brands don't care how smart you sound, they care if you understand their world. Simple template you can use to land your first client is very simple, like this. Dear name, I came across brand or product recently and was impressed by specific compliment on observation. You should always personalize your email. It's clear that you're building something that resonates with your audience. I run agency name, where we help brands like yours connect with trusted influencers across platforms and niches. Our team has supported campaigns in industry that drove both awareness and measurable sales lift. I believe their brand name could benefit from the right creator partnerships, and then mention that we already work with a pool of influencers who align well with your target market and can deliver authentic content around your products. Would you be open to a short call where I can share a few relevant examples and ideas? Best regards, your name, your agency name, and your signature, and that's it. Just so you know, I can't go too much in detail about one thing because this video would be 6 hours long. But if you want to go deeper on this or any other part inside Middleman Roundtable, we have a full 1-hour class on how to find brands properly. And there's another 1-hour lesson focused only on influencer sourcing. Total course length is more than 8 hours. With additional videos, there's more than 25 hours of material. You don't need that to continue this course. What I'm showing you here is enough to get you started. But if you want to speed up the process and have full structure instead of guessing, that's where it lives. Now, brands are everywhere. Budgets exist, interest exists. The real bottleneck is on the other side. And this is where I want to take you back to the very beginning of this business. An influencer marketing agency is a bridge. You sit between two sides. Brands are on the one side, creators are on the other side, and for the bridge to hold, both sides have to fit. Put the wrong creator in front of a brand and the deal dies. Put the wrong brand in front of the wrong creator and you lose trust. Everything starts with who you connect to who. So now that you understand how to find brands and open conversations, we need to talk about the part that actually decides whether this business becomes a real business or just another attempt. How to find influencers the right way. Next section is how to find influencers. Before we go onto it, you need to understand one thing. Influencers are not inventory. They're not numbers on a spreadsheet. They're people with audiences that brands are already paying for. Your job is not to find the biggest creators. Your job is to find the right ones for the brand that you already have, whatever service you are offering. Types of influencers by platform can really depend. Not all of the platforms play the same role in influencer marketing, and this matters a lot when you're sourcing creators. Here's how to think about it in practice. YouTube creators. These people are long-form trust builders. People don't casually watch YouTube. They choose platform, they choose which video they will watch. This means YouTube creators usually have deeper audience trust, stronger influence per view, and stronger conversion power. They're perfect for high-ticket products, SaaS and digital products, education, fitness, and productivity. One video can outperform 10 short clips if it's the right fit. TikTok, on the other side, is speed and volume. Creators here are great at grabbing attention fast, producing a lot of the content in short amounts of time, and testing angles and hooks. They're ideal for UGC, seeding, creative testing, and short-form paid ads. TikTok creators don't always have deep trust, but they have attention which moves fast from one thing to another. Instagram creators, on the other side, sits in the middle. It's visual, it's lifestyle driven, it's brand friendly, and we really connect with these creators. Instagram creators work very well for brand awareness, aesthetic products, fashion, beauty, travel, and food niches. Stories are great for soft promotion, and reels are great for reach. Posts, on the other end, still matter for credibility. Most brands feel safe on Instagram, especially when they are newer to influencer marketing. How this ties back to your service. This is really important. You don't pick creators first. You pick them based on the service that you're offering, the goal of the campaign, and platform that the brand is actually looking for. A seeding campaign doesn't need YouTube. A trust-heavy offer might fail on TikTok but crush on YouTube. Now that you understand platforms, this is where most people fail. They choose wrong size of the influencer. Beyond platforms, influencer size matters as much. Not because bigger influencer means better, but because different sizes serve different roles in campaigns. Here's how to think about it in real life. First one is micro influencers. These are your most flexible creators. They usually have closer relationship with their audience, higher engagement relative to size, and more openness to new brands. They're perfect for seeding campaigns, early stage brands, testing new offers, and building volume without huge budgets. They're also easier to work with, faster replies with less ego. Most beginners should start here. Mid-tier influencers, this is the sweet spot for most agencies. These creators are experienced with brand deals, understand briefs, know how to deliver, and they're ideal for one-time paid collabs and structured campaigns, and brands that want predictable results. Budgets are reasonable, and it really makes sense to work with them. Professionalism is higher, and brands trust this tier a lot. If you want consistency, this is where most of your deals will live. Macro influencers is the third type of influencers, and this is where things slow down. Macro influencers bring massive reach, strong social proof, and higher brand perception. But they also bring managers, long response times, stricter terms and stricter contracts, higher risk if something goes wrong. These type of influencers are made for large campaigns, awareness pushes, and established brands with clear and big enough budgets. This is not where beginners should focus, not because it's impossible, but because it's inefficient early on. The mistake people make here is they chase size instead of a fit. They think bigger creator means bigger result. In reality, wrong creator and big audience, wasted budget. Right creator with smaller audience is a real impact. The goal isn't to impress the brand with follower counts. The goal is to match platform, size, and campaign goal. Once you understand that, sourcing will be much better. Now let's talk about practical and break down how to actually find these creators manually, starting with YouTube. When you're starting out, manual sourcing is more than enough. In fact, it's even better. It forces you to actually understand creator behavior instead of blindly pulling or buying lists of creators. YouTube is one of the best places to source creators, especially for paid campaigns. How to do it is pretty simple. Search keywords in your niche, for example, home workout, budget travel, AI tools, or day in a life. Sort by upload date or view count, and make sure to sort by long form content, not short form content. Look for creators who consistently post average 50 to 500k views per video, already do sponsored integrations, which ties back to brand outreach, where you can see what kind of brands are sponsoring these creators. Then click into their descriptions. If they are already working with brands, that's a good sign. You're not convincing them to work with the brand, you're just offering more opportunities and bringing more money on the table. Instagram and TikTok, here you're looking for activity, not following count. What you need to look for is reels and TikToks with consistent engagement, comments that show real audience interaction, and clear niche positioning. You can search with hashtags, keyword search, or similar creators tab, where you can get suggested creators, but you should also avoid accounts that post randomly, jump niches constantly, and have inflated followers but dead engagement or inconsistent average views. Now that you know how to find creators, let's look at how to actually vet them and see if they are the right fit. First thing you need to do is check if the influencer is managed. You can usually tell by a business email with a custom domain. For business inquiries, contact manager at the domain, whatever the domain is, or agency links in their bio. Managed creators aren't bad, they're just harder to work with when you're just starting out and when you don't have experience. Unmanaged creators are most flexible and more easy to work with if you don't have any experience. After you check if they're managed, you can follow this checklist to see the other metrics. Average views per post or video. Scroll 10-15 videos, get a rough average, for example 12k, 15k, or average 11k views, and then go on to the engagement rate. Anything between 2 to 5% or more is really good. Quality of content, is it aesthetic? Does it match what the brand would like? Niche alignment, does the influencer talk about the products or themselves that match your brand? Audience match, does it look like their followers would buy the actual product? And finally, estimating the influencer cost. To have an idea how much the brand should spend on this influencer, you can use this simple formula. Average views times CPM is the estimated price the brand should pay. CPM basically means cost per 1000 views. In most niches, it goes from 5 euros to 25 euros. In some niches, it goes way above 25 and it's normal. Sometimes when you see big CPM, you can see that price is inflated, but depending on the region, depending on platform, depending on niche, there's a lot of factors that go into this, but CPM should range anywhere between 5 and 25. But this, as I said, really depends on brand and how much they're willing to spend, and of course, region, niche, and the actual influencer type. So an influencer with 20,000 average views in tech niche means 20 times 20 euros, 400 euros estimated cost. CPM also depends on platform. It's not the same for TikTok and Instagram, where it's easier to get views, and on YouTube, where less views, a lot of the time converts even better. Let's say you're working with a mid-tier YouTube creator in a solid niche. Average views per video, 150,000. Reasonable CPM for you in this niche is 25. 150 times 25 is $3,750. That's the creator's price for one integration. Now here's where you come in. The brand's not just paying for creator, they're paying for execution. You position this collaboration for $5,000 all in. You manage creator sourcing, negotiation, timelines, approvals, and delivery. Brands pay $5,000, creator gets $3,750, and your margin is $1,250 from one creator, from one video. Now, if you scale it slightly, the brand decides to test 4 creators. Total budget is $20,000. Creator payouts $15,000. Your agency margin $5,000 from one brand, from one campaign. This is how agencies cross $10,000 months without chasing dozens of clients. Later in this video, I'll break down 4 leaks that keep most people stuck at 3 to 5K, even when they're doing everything right. Next step is listing these influencers in Sheet or CRM. Every influencer, same thing that we mentioned for brands. You must have them in your system. Minimum sheet structure is their name, platform, niche, followers, engagement, country, and finally their contact. Create 3 tabs. One is for collected influencer, one is for contacted influencers, and one is for the influencers that you got a reply from. This gives you speed, structure, and confidence when brands reply because you have everything at one place. Now that you know this, you're probably asking, yes, but how do I really send them a message without sounding like a scammer? Keep this simple. Your opening conversation. You can use a simple template like this. Subject line can be collaboration opportunity with brand name. Hi, influencer's name. Hope you're doing well. I'm Noah and I work influencer partnerships for agency name. We work with brands in niche or space. We're currently exploring potential collaboration between you and brand name. A short brand description. Would you be open to sharing your rates for following deliverables? YouTube integration and dedicated YouTube video. We want to get their price for both things because we still, in some cases, don't know what the brand will choose. If possible, feel free to include your media kit as well because this will help you for future collaborations. Looking forward to hearing from you. Best and your signature. That's it. Nothing more complex than this. Everything we've covered so far is more than enough to get you started. If you're a beginner, this works. That's exactly how everyone should start. But here's the part nobody tells you early enough. If you are actually doing this seriously, you will hit a wall because volume shows up. At a certain point, doing everything manually stops being high quality. It starts becoming slow, messy, and inconsistent because the business outgrows manual work. This is where a lot of agency owners stop, and instead of trying to push harder, you should be structuring better. So what I want to show you next is not a shortcut, it's the thinking behind the systems. How you should be organizing brands, how you should be organizing creators, and how you should be thinking about sourcing when the volume increases. Even if you still do everything manually, this mindset will save you months. Let's look at how it actually works. What you want at scale is not more effort. You want one place for brands, one place for creators, clear filters, clear notes, and clear follow-ups. When everything lives in your DMs, inboxes, and your head, you lose deals without even realizing it. The goal of systems is simple: speed without chaos. This applies whether you use spreadsheets, CRMs, internal tools, or build something custom later. The tool doesn't matter, the logic behind it does. I personally use a combination of CRM and custom application that I built for my agency. Now, that probably sounds a bit abstract or something you don't understand. So instead of explaining systems theoretically, like everyone else will do, let me show you what this actually looks in real life once the volume is there. Application I mentioned is one place where I can see brands, creators, timelines, deliverables, contracts, payouts, pay-ins, every single thing. As you can see, on this page, I can see every single amount that I owe to influencers that still hasn't been paid out to me, total receivable amount from a brand, and total profit for one time frame that I put here. Groups where I can group multiple campaigns and multiple shortlists at the same group and then share that group with a brand where they can see the same thing, but of course without my profit, without multiple stuff that I can see but they can't. They can see the shortlist with influencers, their prices, their analytics, and all the other stuff. So it's much more professional than sending a list of influencers in a spreadsheet. When I open a campaign, I can see name of the influencer, platform, I can see whether it has access to product or service or whatever it is, their draft, the planned date for the post, where the influencer has posted, and the link if it posted, payout to the influencer, how much I charge, my profit, and then a lot of other stuff on the right, which I didn't screenshot. And I can see the total payout, total revenue, and profit of this campaign with the description and campaign name. I can also have my influencer database at one place where I can see all the typical payout, typical charge for influencer, typical profit of the influencer, average views, followers. I also can upload their media kit here and multiple other stuff. Here I can also see other campaign with, of course, a different profit than the last one, and so on and so on. Because once you're running multiple campaigns, memory and Google Sheets can become useless. This way I can share multiple campaigns at once with brands, short lists, have all my influencers at one place, see profits per campaign, and much, much more. This application is not an ad, this is my internal application. I'm just showing you that to show you that you actually need these kinds of stuff to systemize everything and to help you on the long run. As I said, this is not something that I sell or something that you will see the link in bio. It is available to Middleman Roundtable students, but it isn't something that is used for general. This is custom built for my agency. Negotiations on the other end with brands don't stay in cold emails, they move into Slack or WhatsApp. Decisions happen faster, multiple people are involved, things need to be tracked. You'll be in groups with multiple people at once. As you can see here, they approved $34,000 for outline deliverables for one brand pretty fast. They mention shipping info, and you get replies really fast and really fast scale. As you can see here, they proposed 6-month deal for $4,500 each month. Here you can see the new update. They asked for some influencers if they can post in 24 hours. This is what I will mention later, how some campaigns move really fast. They send us talking points in WhatsApp messages and so on. Email threads also stop being short. They turn into long conversations with marketing teams, legal, finance. You miss one detail and whole things will slow down. As you can see here, 64 emails with one team member, then another team member, 18 emails, here 9, and then here 64. This is all with the same brand. Contracts stop being simple agreements, they become detailed documents covering deliverables, timelines, usage rights, exclusivity, liability, all the other stuff. As you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pages of a lot of details of how our partnerships works. Payments also change. You don't get small numbers anymore. You receive large amounts of money at once. As you can see, this was just recently. And then you have on the other side, your payouts also will change. You're going to pay out influencers, as you can see, the same day, multiple influencers at once. Of course, everything else will be profit, also depending on what kind of service you're offering. Deals get bigger, budgets get larger, expectations get higher. As you can see here, they are expecting, let me see if I can find it, but we here mentioned the ROAS, we mentioned the past collaboration, then they accepted the total budget of $54,000 for 2 videos in May. This was last May. Here you can see integration of $30,300. You can see this YouTube vlog for $30,000 for a travel video, again confirmed. You can see $70,000 for integration with that influencer. This is their offer. Then I asked for to extend the deadline for 7 days for this price. Here you can see 2 influencers approved at the same time. Here again, 2 influencers approved at the same time. Here you can see my partner updating the brand on the campaign that we did. 6 influencers posted, expecting 2 more to upload this morning, and so on and so on. And the business doesn't fully turn off. Even when you're traveling or far away from your desk, campaigns and work still is running. This is what I showed in my Madrid vlog, where you can see how I run a campaign while I was still traveling. This is the part where most people will never show you, because you can fake it. You either run this kind of business or you don't, and this doesn't happen overnight. It's gradual shift from doing everything manually to needing structure just to stay in your lane. This is also why a lot of people stall at a certain level, not because they aren't capable, but because they never built systems for this kind of volume. This all wasn't to flex, this is just to have a little break and to show you how it actually looks when you're actually running the business that you're talking about, when you're running it at this scale where you need to systemize a lot of stuff, and to, in general, just to motivate you to show you that it is possible, but it isn't overnight, and you need to build your connections. You need to actually work on this business for quite some time to reach this level, but it is possible and it is doable, especially when you have me talking about this and other people talking about this business who is going to help you, mentorships and a lot of other stuff that can speed up the process, because as I said, this is something that I wish I had. Now, before we even talk about calls, pitching or closing deals, you need to understand what brands actually care about, because it's very different from what beginners think they care about. Most beginners think they care about follower count, and that's usually the first thing they will ask about. In reality, it's rarely the thing that decides a deal. They also think brands are hunting viral videos, or that every brand wants to find next big creator. That's how influencer marketing agency looks from outside, but from the inside, it's completely different. First thing they care about is predictability. From a brand's perspective, predictability is everything. When a brand puts money into a campaign, they're not just buying content, they're committing time, internal resources, internal approvals, and at the same time risking their reputation. They need to know what they are getting into. That's why brands value creators who are reliable more than the creators who are just exciting on paper. Reliable means they deliver when they say they will, they follow the brief without constant back and forth, they understand how to integrate the product naturally, their performance stays within realistic range, and this makes campaigns easier to plan, easier to report, and easier to repeat. Marketing teams don't build strategies on best case scenarios, they build them on outcomes they can reasonably expect. The more predictable creator is, the more confident a brand feels spending again, and confidence is what unlocks bigger budgets, longer partnerships, and recurring campaigns. This is why experienced brands don't gamble, they scale what they can actually control. Next thing is alignment. Brands don't care about influencers' numbers, they look at fitment. Does the creator feel natural for the product? Does the audience make sense for them? Does the content match our brand tone? This is the questions that they will ask. A creator with 80k followers who feels right will outperform a creator with 500k followers who feels forced. Alignment, as I said, reduces risk, and brands are always trying to reduce risk. Next thing we have is security and assurance. This part is often misunderstood, especially by beginners. Brands aren't looking to control creators. They're looking for certainty. They want to feel confident that once a campaign is agreed, nothing turns into a surprise. They want clarity around when the content goes live, what the message will include, how feedback is handled, what the process looks like if something needs to be adjusted, and that sense of security is what makes influencer marketing scalable for them. This is why agencies exist, not because brands can't reach out to creators themselves, but because they don't want uncertainty. They want clear process, defined expectations, and someone accountable in the middle. When the structure is in place, brands are far more willing to commit to larger budgets, test campaigns, and build long-term partnerships. Once you understand how brands think, the next step is knowing how to actually talk to them without killing the deal. We're going to cover how to go on calls with brands, how to pitch influencers to them, how to run campaign, and how to scale, and most importantly, where people get stuck. Let's talk about calls with brands, because this is where one of two things usually happens. Either beginners freeze and sound unsure, or they start selling too early and accidentally kill the deal. First thing you need to do is understand this. There are two very different types of calls. You have discovery and sales call. If you mix them up, everything will feel awkward. The brand will feel pressure, you have the call without clarity, and you hear, "We'll get back to you," and they never do. Discovery call is not where you will close. Discovery call is where you will collect the information you need that allows you to close cleanly later. The goal is very, very simple. Leave the call with enough clarity to recommend the right creators, build a realistic campaign plan, and send an offer that actually makes sense for them. On this call, you are not a freelancer. You're not someone asking for budget. You're a partner evaluating fit. This is what brands actually want to feel when they talk to you. Calm and clarity, someone who leads the conversation without confusion and confidence that execution will be smooth. You don't need a perfect sales pitch, you need right structure. This is minimum question set that saves you 90% of deals. It doesn't need to sound like an interview, just add this naturally into the conversation. First one is campaign goal. What does your success look like for this campaign? You will hear awareness, launch, sales or performance, or content or UGC. For ads, the single answer determines everything else: platform, creator type, and deliverables. Second questions Second question is awareness or sales. What is their KPI focus? When you say awareness, is it mainly reach and views, or are you also tracking conversions? If it's sales, you need tracking codes, links, and landing pages, and creators who can sell, not just entertain. If it's awareness, fit and brand safety matters more. Reporting needs to be clean and professional. Third is budget range, early but clean. To make sure I send realistic options, do you have a rough budget in mind for this initial test? You're not asking here to negotiate, you're asking so you don't waste time on sending the wrong level of creators. Timeline, when does this content go live? This is very important for you to know because you need to check the availability of influencers. Creator criteria, what does the ideal creator look like to you? Reason why we ask is to instantly understand their taste. Approval process and decision maker. How does approval usually work on your side? At the end of this call, don't pitch, close with clarity, give them next steps. Brands like when they know what the next step is. What not to do on these brand calls is don't overpromise results, don't mention creators you don't control, don't quote prices you don't know scope and budget, and don't explain marketing like the brand has never heard of it. Your goal is to make them feel safe and confident in your process. This is the minimal version that works. Inside Middleman Roundtable, I break this down into complete framework. The order of questions, follow-ups, how to guide conversation naturally, and how to send pitch after the call actually closes. But if you do just what I showed you here properly, you're already ahead most of the people. Now that you know how to run a clean discovery call, the next thing brands actually want to see is how can you pitch the right creators in a way that makes saying yes easy. So let's go through that next. When it comes to pitching influencers to creators, simplicity wins. You're not trying to impress anyone with your fancy pitch deck or complex presentation. Most brands prefer clarity over the design, and most brands would rather get 3 perfect matching influencers in a Google Sheet than 40 influencers in pitch deck. The easiest and cleanest way to pitch influencers is through shared Google Sheet. Each influencer gets one row that includes only what the brand actually cares about: creator name and profile link, platforms, follower count, average views, engagement rate, demographics, deliverables, and finally rate for that deliverable. That's it. This allows the brand to quickly compare creators, understand pricing, and make decisions internally without any friction. Your job is not to give them 40 influencers to go through, it's to give them 5 best possible options, make it easy for them to say yes. If the information is clear, structured, and easy to understand, you're already ahead of most agencies. And once creators are selected, the next step is turning those selections into a campaign that actually runs smoothly. This is what we're covering next. Once the brand selects the creators, the real work actually starts. This is where most of the people underestimate. Influencer marketing doesn't fail because of bad creators, it fails because poor execution. Running a campaign is not complicated, but it does require structure. Let me walk you through the flow of that at high level. Contracts and alignment. Before anything goes live, everything needs to be clear. Every creator should have defined deliverables, clear deadlines and payment terms, and of course, usage rights. This doesn't need to be 20-page legal document like I showed you. This is for complex campaigns like I run. It needs to keep you safe and outline the scope of work. When creators know exactly what's expected for them, things run a lot smoother. When brands know what they are paying for, trust goes up. Every contract should have deliverables, what the creator is posting, on which platform and in what format, timelines, compensation and payment terms, how much the creator is getting paid and when they get paid. You'll often see terms like net 15, the brands will pay in 15 days after they receive the invoice, or net 30, they will pay 30 days after receiving the invoice. You should always have also usage rights, disclosure requirements, exclusivity if it's applicable, and revision policy. That's it. If these points are clear, 90% of issues never happen. The contract isn't here to scare any of these sides. It's here to protect the relationship between both sides and protect you who stands in the middle. Briefing the creator comes next. The brief is not a script. Your job is not to tell creators what they say word by word. Your job is to give them direction, which usually includes campaign goal, key points or angles, things to avoid, and deadlines. The better the brief is, the less revisions you will deal with later. Good briefs saves you time, and bad briefs creates chaos and delays. Content approval and publishing. Once the creator submits the content, you need to review it, pass feedback if needed, and get brand approval if required. Then content goes live, and at this stage your role is coordination, making sure links are correct, disclosures are in place, posting times are respected, brief is followed, contract is followed, and you're keeping the process clean. Reporting and follow-up comes next. After the content is live, you collect performance data, views, engagements, clicks, conversions if it's tracked. And this is not about creating fancy reports, it's about showing the brand what happened. This is where long-term relationships are built. Brands don't just remember results, they remember how smooth the experience was overall. Finally, you get paid, you need to make an invoice. Whether you're sending a standard invoice, always include your company name, your business email and contact info, client name and their address, service provided, amount due, payment method, due date, and optional you can add your business ID or VAT number if you have one, if you have a registered business. Use tools like Notion templates or Google Docs to generate clean invoices. In the beginning, you can get paid directly to your personal Wise or PayPal, and that works fine. But when you start doing bigger deals, $1,000 plus, having an official company name builds credibility and lets you do a lot more stuff. At the end, if you've planned to run this business full-time, you will eventually need a company at some point. Most brands don't lose money on influencer marketing because it doesn't work, but because they don't know what they are doing and they don't have a right system. They work without structure, process, or someone accountable. That's where the value of an agency comes in. You're not just connecting people, you're protecting budgets, timelines, and managing expectations from both sides. And when you do all that so well, brands will come back and you eventually move into bigger services. This is the difference between random influencer deals and a real agency. Most people think scaling an agency means doing more emails, more influencers, more calls. I see this all the time. People hit their first few deals, they make some money, and then everything starts feeling heavy because every deal depends on them. That's when scaling actually starts. Not when you work harder, but when you stop doing everything manually. Here's how it actually looks in real life. You start with one-time collaborations, fast wins, quick cash, good experience. If you do the good job, brands come back. But now they don't ask for another creator anymore. They ask, can you handle this whole thing for us? We would like to dedicate $10,000 for the next campaign. That's where campaign management comes in. Same brand, same creators, but now much more bigger scope of work. At the same time, creators you worked with before start trusting you. They don't want to negotiate anymore. They don't want to deal with brands, to deal with all the emails, and they want you to handle it. This is how talent management naturally happens. Not because you decided to add a service, but because the relationship evolved. And this is the key to most people miss. Scaling is not about adding new services every month and adding new offers every month. It's about doing the same things for same people with less friction. Repeated brands, repeated creators, but scaling existing relationships that you already have. Once that's in place, growing stops feeling chaotic and you are no longer chasing random deals. You're managing relationships, and that's the difference between someone doing influencer deals and someone running a real agency. If you're stuck at 3,000 to 5,000 per month, listen carefully. Let me explain what actually happens to most people once they get their first few deals. At start, everything will feel exciting. You close one-time collab, then another one, money finally starts coming in, and then things slowly get messy. First thing that happens is inconsistency. Some weeks you're motivated, sending outreach, closing deals. Other weeks you're tired, distracted, or busy delivering. Because every deal is still manual. Momentum dies at the moment you slow down. You're struggling with discipline. Second issue is the people who don't know how to move up. They stuck doing the same one-time collaborations. Same type of deal, same size of budgets. Then they switch from brand to brand, from influencer to influencer. They don't know how to turn one-time collab into a retainer. They don't know how to access to bigger part of brand's budget. So even when the brands are happy, the deal ends and that's it. Then comes the third problem, and this one hurts really, really bad. Service delivery. Creators are late, briefs aren't clear, reporting is sloppy, not because people are lazy, but because they never built a real process. So brands don't leave early, they just don't ever come back. And finally, there's a quiet killer, negotiation. Most people have no idea how much money they're leaving on the table with same campaign, same brand and same creator, one person will walk away with $500 profit and another one will walk away with $2,500 profit. I've seen this hundreds of times. People are struggling with negotiation because the difference isn't luck, it's knowing how to structure and negotiate the deal, knowing psychology between both sides, knowing how to negotiate and how to get the highest possible margin for you. This is exactly why inside of my mentorship we have 2-hour-long video just on negotiation. So I talk 2 hours like this, but just about negotiations, because this one skill alone often decides whether you're stuck at a few thousands per month or you actually break through to big numbers. This stage isn't about working harder, it's about fixing the leaks. Now, here's the honest part. You can take everything you learned in this video and figure it out on your own. Some people do. Most people take longer than they need to, because they repeat the same mistakes over and over again. Or you can shortcut the process. Inside Middleman Roundtable, which I already mentioned, I work directly with agency owners who want to turn this into a real business. Inside we have weekly calls where real deals, problems, pricing, negotiations and mistakes are discussed with me, only mentor inside of this community. Review real campaigns, real outreach and real contracts. Constantly add new resources, frameworks and breakdowns based on what we are actually doing in the agency right now and my personal examples from campaigns. 12 modules with 8+ hours of material covering everything from starting to scaling and hiring your first people. 17+ recorded Q&A calls and presentation calls with 17+ hours of material. And most importantly, a place where you can ask questions and get answers directly from me any time of the day. This isn't for everyone. I don't work with people who just want information. I work with people who want execution and accountability and can potentially become my partners in the future. We're gonna run campaigns like this, which I showed you, together. If that's you, you can apply it through the link down below and we'll see if it's a fit. If not, that's fine too. Use this course, apply what you learned, take it seriously. Either way, don't treat this like entertainment. Treat it like real training. Thank you for watching, drop a like, subscribe, comment your biggest takeaway, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.
Smoking, puffing gas up from